All right, let's dive into one of the biggest economic events of the year, India's Union Budget for 2026-27. Now, this is way more than just a boring document full of numbers. Think of it as a roadmap, a blueprint that really shows us where the country's headed. So let's see what it's all about.
Okay, so you see a number like that, over 53 lakh crore rupees, and it's just massive, right? It's almost hard to wrap your head around. But behind that huge figure is a story of choices and priorities. So the real question is, where is all that money actually going? Let's follow the money and find out.
Before we get into the specifics, we have to start with the big picture. You got to see the forest before you look at the trees. These top-line numbers are going to set the stage for everything else we talk about.
First up, the total government spending. We're talking about 53,47,315 crore rupees. That's the total amount the government plans to spend on everything, from building roads and bridges to paying salaries and funding defense. It's a huge number.
And, of course, on the other side of the coin, where's the money coming from? Well, these are the total estimated receipts. This is the income the government expects to bring in, mostly from things you're familiar with, like GST and income tax. That number comes in at 36,51,547 crore rupees.
So you've got the spending and you've got the income. And as you can see, there's a gap between them. That gap is the fiscal deficit, and it's targeted to be 4.3% of the GDP. Now, this is a really important number because this is the shortfall that has to be covered by borrowing.
Okay, so when you put it all together on one screen like this, you can really see the strategy. Spending is up by 7.7%, but hey, receipts are also up by 7.2%. And you'll notice the fiscal deficit is just a tiny bit lower than last year. So what does that tell us? It signals that the government is continuing to spend, but it's also keeping a close eye on borrowing and trying to be fiscally responsible.
All right, let's move on to the first huge priority area this budget shines a light on: national security. We're seeing a really big chunk of money being dedicated here, and it's all being framed as a major investment in building a defense force that's ready for the future.
Just look at that number. The total for the Ministry of Defense is a whopping 7.84 lakh crore rupees. And this isn't just a small annual increase, oh no. This is a massive 15.18% jump from the previous year. That's a huge statement, making defense one of the absolute top priorities.
And here's where you see the strategy behind that big number. It's really a three-pronged attack. First, there's a massive 22% surge in capital spending for modernization. Think next-gen planes and tech. Second, there's a clear push for self-reliance or Atmanirbhar Bharta, with domestic production hitting new highs. And third, they're making sure the forces are ready to go at a moment's notice, with a big boost for logistics and troop support.
This quote from EY India really nails it. It says this isn't just about maintaining the status quo. It's about a deep, forward-looking investment in technology, in domestic industry, and in readiness. It's all about building a future-ready force.
Okay, so from securing the nation's borders, let's shift gears to securing the well-being of its people. This next part is all about major investments into absolutely critical areas, our healthcare system and direct support for farmers.
The Ministry of Health and Family Welfare is getting a budget of over 1,06,000 crore rupees. That's a jump of nearly 10%, which really shows that public health is right at the heart of the government's agenda.
And the plan here is really comprehensive. Check this out. A massive 68% funding surge for the PM-ABHIM mission, which is all about building more hospitals and labs. There's a brand new 10,000 crore rupee fund for research. And on the affordability front, they're cutting customs duties on life-saving drugs. Plus, a huge amount, 1.71 lakh crore, is set aside to make sure farmers can get affordable fertilizers. It's a really holistic approach.
And speaking of that big research fund, let's just pause for a second on this new initiative. It's called Biopharma Shakti. This is a big deal. It's a 10,000 crore rupee bet spread over 5 years to basically make India a global powerhouse in producing advanced medicines called biologics. The big idea here is to rely less on imports and become a self-sufficient leading hub in this supercritical sector.
So, we've talked about national security and human well-being. Now let's look at how this budget is trying to build the actual economic engine for the future. We're talking about funding the physical and the digital backbone of the entire country.
This is all about laying the foundation for tomorrow's growth. The investments we're about to see are like the critical gears in that economic engine, all designed to build an India that's more modern, more efficient, and way more technologically advanced.
And here are the actual building blocks. Public capital spending is up again. There's a new scheme to breathe life back into 200 old industrial hubs. A huge push continues on digital infrastructure with BharatNet, plus a new semiconductor mission 2.0. And look at this, serious money for clean energy and a whole new systematic approach to developing our cities. It's pretty comprehensive.
Okay, we've looked at the grand vision, the massive numbers, the big priorities. But let's be real, a budget also hits close to home. It affects our personal finances. So let's bring this all the way down to what it means for you and me.
First things first, the news everyone always waits for. When it comes to your personal income tax, for the upcoming assessment year, the slabs and the rates are staying exactly the same. So, no changes there. However, if you're an investor, especially in the stock market, you'll want to pay close attention to this. The Securities Transaction Tax, or STT, is going up specifically for derivatives trading. As you can see, the rates for trading options and futures are getting a noticeable hike. And there are a few other important changes to know about. For anyone sending money abroad for education or medical reasons over 10 lakh rupees, there's good news. The tax collected at source drops from 5% down to 2%. Same goes for overseas tour packages. The tax is also down to a flat 2%. But on the other hand, for mutual fund investors, a specific tax deduction related to interest expenditure is being taken away.
So when you step back and look at the whole thing, these huge bets on defense, the big push in public health, and all this investment in future technology and infrastructure, you just have to ask, right? Are we just looking at a budget for a single year? Or is this something bigger? Is this the strategic blueprint that's going to guide India for the next decade? That's really the big question this budget leaves us with.